Hey, welcome to the first ever Mick and Pat Show. I'm Mick.
And I'm Pat.
And we are sitting here brainstorming and about to throw as much shit into the fan to see what sticks to the wall. And who knows? Maybe no one will ever hear this. Maybe, unfortunately, our mothers will hear this. Hopefully they don't, because they shouldn't be able to find us by these pseudonyms we're using. But we're gonna kind of spitball some things and see what both interests as we're throwing out suggestions here. I'll be honest, no hard feelings. If you just are brutally honest and say you hate all my suggestions, I'll understand. But yeah, so I think ideally we think that this kind of segment, this kind of show is going to be something around 40 minutes-ish. And making it weekly. I think we also have an idea of a shorter 20-minute format for being our brews and reviews. And perhaps that's the first thing we should spitball is, you know, I've had this idea for a while where we drink a beer. This episode's sponsored by New Belgium. Mick, that's me. I'm trying out this Trapel Belgian-style ale. I gotta say, I really enjoy it. I'm a big European beer guy.
And I'm over here. I've got the Voodoo Ranger Juice Force IPA. I'll take a little sip here. See what I think about it.
Yeah, a little sip.
It's beer. It's good. Beer. But I think that I like that. The Voodoo Ranger, I don't know if I'm smart enough to understand what the Voodoo Ranger is. Is that because there's like 40 Voodoo Rangers. Because New Belgium has all these beers.
This is the cash grab on the hype of the new Top Gun movie. That's what this one is.
Right, this one for sure, which I'm a total sucker for these sorts of things. But it's this Voodoo Ranger because they used to have New Belgium had the Ranger, right? It was a double IPA.
Was it?
Maybe not a double, but
this might be an age thing.
Well, because I turned 21 and I really didn't drink much before I was 21.
Sure.
And
And if you did, you weren't drinking IPAs. You were drinking Busch.
Right. So I don't know. I do know that I drank a Ranger when I was about 21, and it felt like a triple or quintuple IPA, if that's even possible, because I didn't know about the IPA world. So it hit me so much in the taste buds. So now I don't know.
Was it also a dead guy on the front?
The Ranger used to just be a World War II style helmet.
Yeah,
was the logo, and then they did this Voodoo Ranger, and the original Voodoo Ranger had on, it was the skeleton, but it had that helmet. I think it was World War II era helmet.
Oh, geez, I see why. Do you see what the percentage is on the side there? I did not know it was that high.
9.5. My goodness.
That's a double IPA right there for sure.
So the original Ranger, it was good. And then they all of a sudden came out with the Voodoo Ranger. I don't think they have the Ranger anymore. They started this whole now Voodoo Ranger is like a character, like Ranger Rick.
Well, I think what it is that they killed the Ranger. And that's why they have the dead guy. Because now it's the Voodoo. He's brought back with Voodoo for whenever they need a quick cash grab and they're only going to run the beer for one summer, right?
Yep.
And that's just what the Ranger is now.
I see.
And I got to say, as much as I despise marketing that takes advantage of the things I love, it's great marketing. I freaking love this beer. And I am not a very hard IPA guy. I never caught the IPA bug. And I like to make fun of the people who are IPA snobs. This is good beer.
Yeah.
It's got a juicy, citrusy flavor to it, and I'm a big enjoyer.
Yep. I like it. I think I might have become an IPA guy because
you live in Oh,
yes.
bleep that out.
Yeah.
Bleep that out.
But I was gonna say, we could
Because you live in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
we can probably get some more information on the specific history of this, the Ranger, from some connection that we probably have.
Yeah.
Due to proximity. But I think I might have started liking IPA just for the fact of that they worked faster.
Oh, yes.
When I was in college, they worked faster than the other ones.
That's why I like champagne.
Champagne gives me headaches, I think.
Of course.
But here's why I don't know.
It's a roller coaster. You rush up to the high real fast, and then you sober real fast.
Well, I don't know if champagne gives me a headache or not because I only drink it at weddings.
And then you're dancing.
Well, I've usually consumed
too much.
Not too much champagne necessarily, but too much multiple other kinds of spirits and liquors and things.
Yeah. You're not doing the beer before the clear kind of thing.
No, whatever they hand me, I say okay.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm a weak man.
I once started mixing water with wine at a wedding so I could hydrate while continuing. I think it was my third glass. No, it was like my fifth glass of wine. And I remember my wife, girlfriend at the time, thought I was an idiot. And I told her, no way, I'm going to be fine. Threw up in the bushes outside of that wedding. I think I made it like 11 cups of wine before I finally tapped out that evening.
Oh my gosh, that's how you know it's going to be a bad idea.
I also try to put out sparklers with my fingers at that
wedding. If you're drinking cups of wine and not glasses,
plastic cups,
it's a different ball game, and you're doing some messianic work there a little bit.
Chemistry, yeah.
Yeah,
what can I say?
And wine, but
Jesus is my superstar, and I was just trying to, imitate it. But we just kind of went down a little bit of an example of what we think brews and reviews might be, where we review a beverage and the memories it sparks in us, whether those good or bad. And then also review a stream of content, whether it's ideally, I think, in the modern day of streaming, there's an unending supply of things for us to honestly on. And I think we have a lot of awesome stuff out there that we can definitely say we enjoy. But I think a great example is like easily going over the new Game of Thrones show, House of Dragon, as well as the new Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings show, which I'll be honest, I don't hate it as much as I thought I would, but it is definitely kind of sleepy. Like it's you put it on an afternoon and you're going to be taking a nap.
I've only watched 2 episodes.
Same. I'm 2 in,
so
don't remember much.
Right. So the first episode got me in pretty good, just like because of how much I love Lord of the Rings. I read Lord of the Rings, watching the movies as a kid. I was a very young kid when they came out with the movies, and so enjoyed watching those. And I think one thing that'll be fun as we go through this is, part of the problem is that the remakes are endless right now. So that could even be a pretty strong vein in our brews and reviews, where we're looking at all these regurgitations.
Yeah.
And
the original
and
content.
the originals, and comparing them to the greatness that was and then what it is now. And sometimes you end up pleasantly surprised by some of these things as well.
Did you know that the only adaptation that Tolkien liked of his books was the made-for-TV Lord of the Rings movie?
Really?
Yeah, it was an animated movie, and they ran out of money in the first half, and so then they just started having actors dressed in orc makeup, and then they just would cut around the film and splice it over the animated cell background to finish the final fight at Mordor and stuff like that. And I think they actually only got through the second book. They never were able to complete it because it just didn't have the money at the time for a public television animated film. And Tolkien loved it. He thought it was great. He did not like the movies, the Peter Jackson movies. He said they were too actiony.
Really?
honestly, I read the books after watching those movies, and those books are not that full of action.
No,
like they're good. They're good. They're
yeah.
an adventure story. But dude, Tom Bombadil, where the hell was that guy in the movie?
They left out some of that key stuff, and especially like authors like Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, who write these books that have epic tales with epic characters that have that drive to deep places in our human psyche and in the way that we were created. But then their books are kind of like so boring. But
they can be. Yeah.
Well, like they should be. I should say that they should they should be boring, but they're not. Like they, the way that you read like 20 pages of just hobbits, walking from one place to the next, but you can't put it down. So it's like they had this incredible ability to grab you in that way, and I think that I really enjoyed reading. I read The Hobbit before or around the same time I'd seen all the movies come
original
out.
Trilogy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because it was I was like 13-ish, a little younger. I was younger, but like The Hobbit was written for kids more so than the next three, and so I was able to read that as a kid and then watch the three movies. And then as an adult, I read the trilogy, and what I liked was that because Peter Jackson like filled in the blanks where I wanted the action.
Oh yeah.
So like what is nice is like but so Tolkien's story like just gets into this very specific into these very specific details and tells the story, and then he would say one sentence to end a chapter, and it would be something along the lines of, "And they fought a battle unlike the world had ever seen." And that was it. But then I could put Peter Jackson's whole entire sequence of the fields of Pelennor.
Yeah.
Where, Legolas is, skateboards down an elephant's, trunk and then triple arrows it in the head. Like, I got that too. So, like, I feel like, and I don't know if it's because of the timing that I consumed them in, I feel like they complement each other really well.
Yep.
Smoke break.
Smoke break.
Hey, Ken, it's Mick, and I've got something important to talk about. We all hope we never find ourselves in a self-defense situation, but life's unpredictable. Enter the National Self-Protection Plan from Attorneys on Retainer, an actual credible law firm you can put on retainer for your self-defense needs. For just $35 a month, you get national coverage in all 50 states for criminal and civil legal representation in self-defense situations, complete with a 24/7, 365 toll-free emergency line. That's real legal support when you need it most. What's in the package? Bail bonds, scene cleanup, firearm replacement, even mental health counseling. Plus, 0 fees for a laundry list of defense-related costs like expert witnesses. So support the show and get yourself some peace of mind. Click the link in our show notes or visit our sponsors page to sign up for the National Self-Protection Plan from Attorneys on Retainer.
Hey folks, Pat here. If you're like Mick and I, you're a fan of classic tales like Lonesome Dove, Blood Meridian, The Three-Body Problem, and Steinbeck's East of Eden. With Audible, you can dive into these epic stories anytime, anywhere. Sign up for a free month, and your first audiobook is on the house. To start your free trial and support our show, click the link in the show notes or swing by the sponsors page on our website.
Want an awesome website for your podcast? Check out Podpage. We use it for the Mick and Pat Show, and it's a game changer. Set it up in minutes, no coding needed. Support the show by using our link to get started. Your podcast deserves a home as great as ours. Podpage, the one-stop solution.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree that as someone who definitely has enjoyed both the trilogy movies and the books, and I think it's honestly like the journey of like being a child. I remember I had this neighbor. He was a really cool former Army. He had these like daughters that are around the same age as me when we were in like elementary school, and they were like tomboys. And these girls like just had the most bitchin' Lego sets, like so many, like buckets of Legos. And they had Lord of the Rings Legos and all that, like the old school ones coming right out of 2004 and stuff. And like, so I remember being over there and playing with the Legos while he would put on the first movie, and he'd be like, "Hey guys, this movie's incredible. You need to watch it." And I was like, "Hey man, I'm in 4th grade. There's this cute girl who's playing with Legos right now. Do you understand? This may never happen to me again." She wants to play Legos while this movie's on. I'm gonna do that, okay? And as I matured, I realized those movies are damn good movies, and not just that, but like they're movies that like everyone will sit down to watch. Like, I don't think I knew a girl. I don't think I had a girlfriend in high school that wasn't down to watch Lord of the Rings. Like, you know, like they were just like really good movies, really well done. And honestly, if a girl was like, "No, these movies suck," she wasn't gonna be my girlfriend anyways, right? But then, as I've gotten older, became kind of an old man and enjoying audiobooks because I don't read anymore. I listen to everything. You know, that's my medium. The audiobooks are really great. The narrator for him, I can't remember his name, but God bless his soul. He does a great job of like honestly taking the things that probably were the least exciting and easy to imagine parts of those books, like the songs, and he sings them.
Really?
Yeah, he sings them, and he sings them in a tune that you're like, that sounds like the Hobbit singing. That sounds like a tune of Gandalf humming and singing, and it sounds really well done. Because if you read the books, I've looked at the text and stuff.
It's hard.
It doesn't say like in the key of G.
Yeah, or like
and
to
like,
the tune of row, row, row your boat.
Exactly. It doesn't say that stuff. It's just kind of written there in italics, and you're like, yeah, I'm not really musically inclined, so I don't know what that's going to sound like, and it's hard to imagine it. But the audiobooks, for anyone out there, Audible, especially if you want to sponsor us, they're great, and they're long, so you get a lot for your money.
Get a lot of time out of that thing.
But
I think that's cool. Audiobooks, it's funny because you can tell like in the first probably 3 seconds if you can hang with this audiobook because of the narrator's voice.
Yeah.
And so to hear about a guy who's going to take the time to figure out how to sing those songs, that's pretty cool. And like when I'm reading it, when I read Tolkien stuff, I'm able to, with like maybe 55 to 60% of the songs, read the pentameter and the rhythm of the way he's trying to.
What the hell's a pentameter?
A pentameter is, I don't know.
I actually don't want to know either. I just want you to know. I don't know.
So pentameter is like Shakespeare wrote a lot of, like a sonnet is written in iambic pentameter, and so that's why it's, if you just kind of read it and just let your mind flow to the syllables of the beat, and you're able to just have it roll off the tongue, a sonnet sounds like a song without even putting anything to it. And it's the way that the syllables hit at certain moments, and also it's the way that the syllables line up, not only like with each word, but to the next line, to the next line, to the next line. And so the pentameter is the rhythm of the writing.
I thought you said you don't know what that is.
You
literally just described it, and now I know what it is.
I guess I do know what pentameter is.
One thing I hope is that when people listen to this, they scream at their radio or whatever the hell this is playing over about how maybe wrong we are about things that we really explain confidently, and then they can write in and tell us.
That is actually,
hey, just so you guys know, 1, you're plebs. 2, this is what pentameter is. And then we can read it and educate everyone and correct it.
I think that's great, and that's been both a fear and excitement of mine with going on a venture of a podcast, because you just know that, I mean, what a buzzword for the day, but vulnerability. We're just being vulnerable. We're putting ourselves out there.
Kind of.
And in a way. Yeah. We're putting, not all of ourselves, not fully exposing ourselves.
Just my voice.
Yeah, I'm not going to expose my entire self.
Yeah.
Sounds like jail time. But
exactly.
But we're going to expose enough of ourselves that we're going to sound like fools sometimes. And so, yeah, we plan on people letting us know about that. And at the same time, it's so funny. It's like in this world we live in today, with the way that everybody's an expert on something, and in the way that also you have to be just correct, factually correct about whatever you're talking about. Is like, all right, we're not gonna be correct sometimes.
Yeah.
We like to seek truth. We're truth seekers.
Yeah.
But we're not necessarily fact seekers. We want to know more facts.
Yeah, I'd like to be educated more.
I like to be educated.
That's kind of my...
Yeah.
I'll be honest. There's nothing I'm going to say I'm an expert on. Like, if there's one thing that people who do podcasts... I'm throwing this out there. Like, I'm legit trying to throw shade at every person who makes money off of a podcast. You're not an expert at anything other than talking. And you know what? Congrats. You're really good at that thing. And everyone else really enjoys it enough to argue with you, knowing that you can't hear anything. Yep. And, you know, I maybe that's what we end up being the expert on, because there's a lot I think I know, far more that I don't know. And I would love to be educated by some of our listeners, even if it's angry letters.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure to write in capitals.
We can, make sure that the emotion is known so that we know just how you feel about it.
Yeah.
And I think what's funny is, I heard someone say this on a podcast the other day, was they said, you know, the best, like, everybody wants to write a book. Like in some way, not everybody, but like so many people write books and just throw them out there because it seems like a way to, you know, you write a book, you get on some podcasts, you get on, maybe in the old days, get on talk shows, you know, on TV, and you can still do that too. But it kind of seems, in some ways, it seems like an easy out of just, I'm going to write a book and everybody's going to pay me, you know, $35. If I can find 100,000 people to pay me $35, that's great day. But
you keep a little bit of that.
Yeah, you don't get as much as you think,
you
know. But this person said, you know, if you really want to write a book, you have to go live life first, and then you can come back to the book part.
Yeah, the majority of people that want to write a book don't understand. They haven't done something that is... It might be exciting enough that someone would be willing to listen to you talk about it for 10 minutes. Most people don't understand that they haven't done something that someone wants to sit and read. Like, you have to have something really exciting and really interesting to share for someone to sit down and open up and read a book. And, like, a lot of people just don't have that.
Yeah, and I think that... So I'm going to contradict or maybe be hypocritical right now with this next part, but so the same way that many podcasters aren't experts in anything. I think there are lots of the podcasts that people do love to listen to. The ones that get like a bunch of attention do have experts experts on, not on talking, but they do have like you know, I listen to. There are, if your podcast is very niche in a specific field, a cooking podcast with, you know, someone like Spencer Gillespie, Wild Game Cook, like that guy, he knows it. That's what he does. So you can go dive into that. But then the majority to agree with your point, majority of people are just, you know, sitting down, cracking a beer, and just talking about kind of nothing or nothing of much substance. And so we are acknowledging that maybe we are in, I don't know if we're an expert crowd or not, but I'd say probably not.
Oh, no.
Right.
That's the
right. That's what you're driving
self
towards.
jab. Yeah, you know, you're right, because I don't know if Jocko's an expert podcaster. He's pretty good at it. I don't even listen to anything by Jocko really, but I just know he's good at it. He is an expert at killing people. That is one thing that man is probably far better than most at, you know. And Joe Rogan, I would say Joe Rogan by now in his career is an expert, like, fight narrator. Like, I bet that guy knows the game so, like, in and out maneuvers and styles that I would say he's probably an expert at that. But I think majority of people doing these things, these podcasts, are not, you know, what they're best at is talking.
Right. And what's funny is I feel like I'm not very good at talking. I work during the week a labor job by myself, and so I spend so much time just in my own head. So maybe I'll come sit down here and have lots of things to say, but also I've lost half of my vocabulary since college. I think maybe 3/4 of my vocabulary since college.
You do speak like a caveman often.
that
Hungry.
it got to be, if you're talking Jocko, simple. It's one of the rules. If we're good, we can't get down to the Jocko place too often. I'm a huge Jocko fanboy. I'll admit it right now, but I'm going to refrain from mentioning him. I am.
Oh,
yes. Yeah.
see, I didn't know this.
Yeah, no, you baited me in there. But here's the deal. I'm not going to mention that man's name until he knows my name. Just kidding.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the plan?
Might not work out that way. But the I think something that's we get to do is we get to embark on discovering the lost art of conversation. And I think that's why podcasts have become like rampant over the last 5 to 7 years.
Because no one friggin' talks
Because
to each
people
other.
don't talk anymore. People are scrolling. People are texting. Like, I talk to so many people who are even like, don't call me, just text me.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel the same way. Like, I don't like to talk on the phone either, which is now it's like, it's kind of disturbing as we continue to isolate in these areas that we feel like we're having community. Isolation breeds, individualism breeds isolation. And so as we do more and more things by ourselves, we're going to be isolated more. And we have these synthesized and fake interactions with people. And I just remember back to like thinking about my great-grandpa and my grandfather could sit and just talk for hours, and they could conversate. And sometimes old guys, they're talking about nothing for hours. But as a kid, I could sit for hours and listen to everything they said. And I think that is what people are hungry for in this whole world. And that's why podcasts work. And that's why people put them on in their car, put them on while they're working, go to sleep to them, is because it's a lost art of the ability to conversate and connect with those around you.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to say to that for sure. And I think Brews and Reviews, y'all, if you're listening to this, just got a taste of it. I think the idea would be a lot more concise, though, focused. And we've kind of moved on to this other more kind of free-form conversation. But I think that's kind of the thing that we want to do is like have this moderately scheduled kind of storyboarded ideas that we can present that we hope we're entertaining and engaging with people listening. But dude, you just sound like you farted out of your mouth. But I think the most that we want to do is offer like, hey, we're two guys that are going to try to come before you humbly saying, like, neither of us are masters of a craft. But one thing we both do enjoy is engaging with people, talking to them, listening to them, and just having a genuine conversation, whether it's like breaking bread, having a beer by the fire, whatever it may be. And I find it funny that you say you might not even like talking that much because you run your mouth constantly. And like,
I think I'd phrase it this way: where like I've also forgotten like how to engage, and so like I can't tell if it's a good or bad thing. I spend so much time by myself because then in like a setting like this, I might just be like overflowing with words, all this stuff, all these thoughts I've had in my own little isolation. But at the same time, I feel like also there's been times in my life too where it's like I just still don't want to be around people and I want to go sit down.
Yeah, I think the funniest thing is that I listen to podcasts or audiobooks when I'm at the gym with headphones in. And literally, if anyone walks up to me, I point to my headphones. Like it could be my wife at the gym. I point to my headphones. I'm like, I can't hear you. I'm working out, right? Because one, if you're at the gym, you don't want someone to talk to you. You're focused. Two, if you're listening to something at the gym, it's the biggest sign of like, don't talk to me. But what are you listening to at the gym? For me, it's people talking. Whether it's an audiobook and they're pretty much telling a story to me, or it's a podcast. And I think that's just like ironic, very ironic, is like often when we are in a place where we want someone to not talk to us, we turn on this kind of medium, whether it's a talk show on a radio, whatever it may be. Excuse me. All that said, there might be nothing there, but I do find it ironic. That said, we do want this to be a place of our listeners able to be genuine. We want you to feel like you're in the room with us, vices and virtues and all. And speaking of that, you mentioned a point earlier. You were thinking this might be a time where, we both quit nicotine, but this might be a time where we just, let it be a safe space to have some. And what did you say you were? I couldn't remember exactly what you said earlier.
This podcast might just become an excuse for us to just lack all discipline.
Yeah, that's so ironic because on my way over here, I stopped at the gas station for the first time in like 8 months.
Put that away.
And I figured I just would leave this nicotine here in a desk drawer that we can just leave here and only use.
I had the same thought today. So since we're not filming this, he just pulled two. This brand is called On.
It's
but
cheap. It's buy
it's
one,
the
get
cheap
one
stuff.
free.
Buy one, get one. The 8 milligrams burn my lips. They get scabs, but I still put it in my mouth.
Yeah, I really hate wintergreen, but I figured you might not like citrus.
All right.
I think it tastes like Fruit Loops.
All right.
And there's nothing that makes me, nothing that makes me want to engage with a vice more than the fact if it tastes like my childhood.
All right, we put one of these in.
I am. Yeah,
right,
I literally
right.
bought this because
All
I figured
right.
we just leave it here.
So here's a little bit of background.
For everyone
as
else
I
out there,
peel
this is the
thing.
dip time. We're gonna have a dip moment.
Yep. If
right?
you're
like
if
this
you're
is
a
the time to
dipper,
throw it in.
maybe we could help people quit by doing this, and they only chew once a week with us.
Yeah, but then they're gonna like just.
They won't listen to a podcast for like our podcast
Yeah.
like 4 months, so then they can just they'll put on replay.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. I have had I kind of have an addictive personality, and so I stay away from certain things. And for the last 3 weeks, I have not had a chew. And
Tell me that doesn't smell like freaking Fruit Loops, dude.
it does smell like it smells like Fruit Loops.
It smells
There's
exactly
a
like
little
Fruit
bit of chemicals in there. But so here's the deal. I haven't thrown a little Chosky in. I don't know if you can even call them Choskys anymore. I used to make when these like Zen and On came out. I used to make so much fun of them because I was a long cut guy.
Yeah, a lot of people would.
It was the vaping of dipping,
Well, a lot of people roasted me when I was I'll be honest. Like I quit vaping hardcore and replaced it with Zen when I found out Zen was an option. Because I'd never liked to chew. It never made me sick. But I never felt like it gave me the buzz I wanted. And then you couldn't swallow the spit. I heard about Zen. I was like, I can swallow the spit. And I could throw in a bunch of pouches and it doesn't tint my mouth any color.
Yep.
But everyone will make this joke. Like, oh, is it time to change your tampon?
Yep.
You got to swap out, get your new tampon in your mouth.
That was me.
And I legit thought, fools. Like,
is that I don't think you can put those two words in the same sentence.
What?
Tampon in your mouth.
I mean, that's what people would say. And all of those people, well, they're you, Pat. They're sitting across from me, and they're fiends, and I've slowly worked my way off of it.
You also went 8 milligram. You weren't messing around. See, I'm a Zen 3 milligram man, and so this wintergreen 8 milligram.
What is the difference between that and a tampon? At 3 milligrams in, both of those will give you the same amount of buzz.
I used to be a full horseshoe man, wintergreen, Copenhagen long cut. And then, yes, I made fun of Zen for so long. The reason why I shifted to Zen first was because I actually loved to duck hunt. I love to waterfowl hunt. And I would have a cinnamon Zen in the blind.
It looks like cocaine.
The powder, the extra powder in there to one bust. It does look like Coke on the table. Oh, yep. But so we're out hunting ducks one morning, and my friend pops out this little can of cinnamon flavored Zen, and I just throw that in there with my coffee in the morning. Duck hunting, it was so good. And then what's funny was then I started chewing Zens, and though I do wintergreen at first, but my body for so long, I chewed dip for so long that you can gut for a little colloquialism.
Disgusting.
You can gut On and Zen and these new nicotine alternatives to tobacco, but there's very few burly, incredible men who I've known over my life who can just straight gut the real deal.
Yeah, no way.
I can't do it. I get sick. I get ill. But I chewed for so long that wintergreen, I would swallow it, and then my body would think I just swallowed dip, and I would start to get sick. Anyways, I don't know if anybody wants to hear what I've just been saying, and we might have lost you, but here's the deal. I had the exact same thought as you today. Here's the deal, folks. I have really cut back on how much alcohol I drink, and I've cut back on Zen for a lot of different reasons.
These are good things.
Because I want to be a disciplined man, and I also want to be a healthy man. And so I think that this is a place where here at the headquarters, we haven't named this place yet. We'll get a good name for it at some point, but here we can leave these in the desk drawer, and we can look forward to it during our conversations.
Yeah, and eventually we'll probably reach a point where if our listenership is wide enough, someone will rat to our wives about it, and then we'll get rid of it.
Maybe. But is your wife hardcore anti?
No, not hardcore. She's
Mine
just
neither.
like, she knows. We don't know what it's going to do to us. That's the thing, right?
Yeah,
this might be worse for us.
This is true because you see these old ads where like 98% of doctors smoke Camels or whatever, and it's like that was these old ads, and you're like Pall Malls are the healthiest option, and it's like what Pall Malls have killed I don't know what the stat is, but maybe hundreds of thousands. How high is the number of people those things killed? But so we don't know what's in this. Big companies lie to us. We'll probably talk about some of that in some conversations down the road.
Thing,
we'll get into some of that corporate BS that we get fed. And we're not conspiracy theorists. And we don't want to venture too far down into those things, but we do want to look at history, and we want to learn from it, and we want to, going forward, we want to be shrewd. We don't want to be paranoid, but we want to be shrewd individuals. And so, I was thinking about this, maybe the nicotine alternative is good, isn't bad for you.
Hey,
but
Connor,
maybe,
hold on. Sorry, I have to take a piss.
All right.
But you continue on.
All right.
This is a good segment.
I'll keep going. Yeah, you go. So here's what I think about what could be going on in these is that what if the fabric pouches they're wrapping these in, that's giving us the bad stuff? We don't know. So, we're going to take a little pause. You're going to hear a message from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. All right, so we're back from our sponsor break, and as you heard during that time, it was just 3 minutes of silence. We don't have any yet, and that's okay. But you know what? We could someday. We're self-sponsored.
Are we going to reject any sponsorships? Is there an example of one we turned down?
Pfizer.
How much money we're talking here?
Should we go down
Get
this
the
route?
jab. They paid us $10,000.
After we were talking about how we're not conspiracy theorists, and we just start talking about that immediately, going down all these things. But here's the deal. I think yes. I think that we will need to be in alignment with, stuff we're promoting, as well as the fact that, this probably isn't a show for kids. We're not.
I think I would say, you should at least be 14 to listen to this.
14 with your parent, your dad wants you to, listen to this one because it's really good for you. And then, I think also you're going to hear me start breathing heavy and getting confused because 8 milligrams literally makes my eyes knock together. And so I'm going to change this to another one. Shane is now at 16 milligrams.
I just feel wrong without having 2 pouches in.
See, here's the funny thing. I'm a 3 milligram man, but I'm a double 3 milligram man.
I've been a double 6, sometimes triple 6.
Triple 6, that is just bordering on some
devilish
stuff right there.
The devil's sugar is what this stuff is.
The devil's sugar. So, I think that we'll have to jump off that cliff when we get to it with our sponsors, and we will.
Do you know that the sponsors sometimes write the ads for like
Like
the
it-
producer
like-
doesn't write the ad,
like
and they try to
into the
write it in what like our vernacular.
Right. And so it's not like you take a commercial break. It's like while we're talking just now, like for instance, just now we've been talking about on this whole time and how now we're sitting here chewing on instead of Zen. Did on pay us to say that?
No.
No, but that's how they do it in some shows. You know, it's just like here's the funniest thing about talk radio. Like, you know,
Wait, is this the funniest thing about talk radio?
it's not the funniest, but to me it is intriguing.
Okay.
The way that, you know, so it'll go like this. Some guy, some old man on an AM station, political affiliation unknown, but you could assume, he goes something like this. Economic crisis, the president, blah, 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 for, you know, in all these things, you know, the Dow down this much, and what you really need to consider is investing in gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, they just go right into it. It's just so fun every time. And so there's like a whole, like, the last 3 minutes of their segment on air is fear-mongering and then gives you an option out of it. Like, you know,
Yeah, get your
these
adrenaline
houses,
up.
you know, these houses in the market, you never know what's going to happen. The rates, you know, we heard the Fed's going to raise the rates, but such and such financing company can give you the lowest rates in the business.
Yeah. I think the weirdest one for me is I was listening to this podcast. For those of you who might not know, I'm a really big fan of the Matt and Shane's Secret podcast. And they have like brands that try to write it in their vernacular, and it's really weird because they suck at it. Like, and I think a classic example is Manscaped. They're like, "Hey dogs, you ever got to trim up for that evening out on the town?" And I'm just like, that's not how these guys talk. Like these guys don't talk like that. But it's what the ad thinks they talk like, and it wrote it for them. And it's really kind of sometimes off-putting.
Right.
I would just rather like have an ad segment and just come out with it and just be
say
like,
it. Just say
"Hey
it's a
guys,
commercial.
we're sponsored by this, and we're going to talk about our sponsor today." Boom, and hit you with it.
Exactly. And like, and they don't do their research. Like, they don't know that guy has like pubic alopecia.
Well, yeah, and then you don't need to manscape, I guess.
Is that a thing?
I imagine alopecia is just all hair. I think. I don't think you retain your pubes but lose your eyebrows.
You just have like,
Alopecia. Also, by the way, be careful with that. Will Smith is gunning.
oh,
dude.
get you slapped.
Yeah.
It'll get you slapped. I didn't even know what alopecia was. I think like,
That's actually real quick question, just to get to know you better. Chris Rock or Will Smith?
oh man, you know, in that, are we talking about those 45 seconds?
No. I'm just talking like between the two of them. Like who
Broadly.
Who do you enjoy more?
I mean, Will Smith is.
Hasn't made a good movie in about a decade.
I know. Here's the deal. It's like, it's hard to watch somebody that is like a hero to you, like, you know, Men in Black.
Just spiral out of
all these-
control.
To watch them, because here's the hard thing about social for people too. Now it's like to see into their lives all the way, and then to do this weird thing of like maybe pretend vulnerability on like Facebook Live. I don't know, and so I think that, I think that's because people who are in the entertainment world have a persona and a personality that they put forth that can be so consuming, like Alice Cooper, for instance. So Alice Cooper, you know, for years, Alice Cooper, you know, the eyeliner, the long black hair, the craziness on stage. He now an old man who has a radio show and he golfs, right? And who loves Jesus, which is, I think, pretty.
Does he?
He does. It's really cool to hear him talk about his relationship with Christ and the fact that he's been a spiritual person throughout that whole time. And he talks about how he, like, Alice Cooper became almost like an alternate personality. And it wasn't him, that he put forth for years and years and years and years, and it became very consuming. And so now he's like, I just want to be on my radio show, and I want to play 18 holes of golf and just, like not have to be this thing. Like, and I wonder, and you see this with lots of rock stars too, just lose themselves in certain things, but entertainers also, you become a facade, in many ways. And
well, I think actually a good example of that too, this individual, you all probably know him. He's best known for saying the water's making the frogs gay. I'm not a fan of the guy, but he was on an episode of a very left-leaning podcast show, or maybe it wasn't podcast. Maybe they just do it on YouTube. But I think they had him on initially to like ask him questions and razz him, and they ended up just being homies, and like they all got along really well because he was not his usual persona. And I thought that was crazy because I was like, is this guy really who he is when he's on the podcast? No, he's in court, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't get into that necessarily, but I just thought it was weird because you have this idea of someone and who they've been kind of made out to be in media, and the image they generate for themselves, and then you see them actually like in a conversation just getting along with someone on the other side of the aisle, which I think is really cool. And hopefully we get to kind of do some of that here too, and have some genuine conversations with people who we might not be on the same page with. But that's kind of like what I think too, is like there's the facade, the image that people have, whether it's Hollywood or whatever. And then, you talk to them outside of that, and they're just like a dude, just a normal person.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have a real normal conversation with them.
Yeah, yep. And to even go back to our conversation earlier about experts and us not being experts in certain areas, we want to have experts come have conversations with us. And also, I have this idea where I would love to, at some point, have people come talk with us who are known in a big ways, but they can actually really come here and just be who they are and have conversation with two dudes. Like
AOC. Would love to have AOC at this table. Cotter just had an aneurysm. No, but like, I genuinely agree too. Like, so a little bit of background on us. I think it's only fair.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Mick, and in my day job, I work as a data scientist, and so I do like work with AI and mostly on the government side of things. And so I find AI really fascinating, cutting edge. The flip of the coin of one side is, are we creating Skynet? Is this the Terminators? And the other side is, are we improving the life for everyone across the world by having to automate the worst things about life? And I would love to have people wiser than I, more versed in the field and more experienced in it. People have been doing it since the 90s here, to kind of, talk on some interesting topics in regards to that. And I think like things in that kind of field is pretty interesting. But it kind of the same side of it too, though, is like, Pat, you're more of a, blue collar guy.
Mm-hmm.
You're working a blue collar job. You want to kind of go into what you do?
Yeah. So I, after college, I have a degree in Middle Eastern Arabic studies, and so naturally that leads to construction.
Yeah.
So in lots of ways, and you can take that degree in other directions, usually further education. You can either go get into some alphabet soup, government agency stuff, or you can go further education with it, and there's all sorts of jobs you can take with it. But I wanted to stick around the town I was in. My soon-to-be wife had a job at the school district. We loved our community here and our friends and our church, and this was a place where we wanted to be. And so I went and got a job as a maintenance man, and after a few years being a maintenance man, I decided to strike out on my own and do construction, and now I do radon mitigation work. And radon mitigation work, you find yourself in lots of attics and lots of crawl spaces for most of the day. And so I spend my time with tools in my hands and just working on people's houses.
There's authenticity to that too, I think, and I think something that a lot of people really don't consciously think about is like when they need that work, they invite a complete stranger into their home. And I think having people who work in those careers, gone from, apprentice to journeyman to expert in their craft, and having them, share like their weird experiences and stuff would be pretty interesting. Like I know one of the men who was a really big influence in my life was an AC like installer and repairman, and he was a Yellow Pages guy. You could look up his business and number in the Yellow Book, and he would share with me how many times he got called to fix someone's AC. It was really like a lonely housewife who was just trying to like seduce him or something, and like just the freaking wacky stuff he would walk into. And have to be like a human being and a kind human being, and gently neglect that so it doesn't, one, like harm his business, but two, also like so it doesn't damage his like reputation as a man.
Right.
And I think there's just a lot of things in that, like we see like the show, the movie, The Cable Guy, like Jim Carrey, and they got this like kind of quack character of like, hey, you're inviting the cable guy to your house. Are you sure he's not insane and just going to become like a stalker? But then there's like the other side of like they're real human beings, genuine people who kind of get to see a sliver of your life. And I think that's just really fascinating because I don't really think twice about it when I have someone to come in to like work on something in my apartment. But they get a real clean picture of my life.
Yeah. And it's funny, like today I was in 3 houses. They were townhomes right next to each other. 1, 2, 3, and they were. I had this thought even today about it. It was the funny thing was the design of the house. It was the exact same house that I walked into 3 times because it was just the same floor plan, all this stuff, whatever. But then I walked into 3 totally different environments. One of them was a broken environment that hurt my heart for. Another one, I think, was. It was like such another one had this kind of funny fancy facade, which like not to dog on someone who lives in a townhome or a like row house condo. I'm not talking about like high rise condos. I'm talking outskirts of town. Townhouse is like they had all this. It was like when you walked into their house. They really wanted you to know that they were educated or highly by their books on their walls and stuff. It looked like books that had never been cracked before.
Encyclopedia.
So, and then, it's just funny. You do get glimpses into people's lives as you walk through into their most like kind of like personal, like private spaces, and like it was funny. One of the houses I walked into today was a mess, and like the person was like so embarrassed because they forgot I was coming, and then they were like, they cleaned the whole time I was there, and I was like, you don't need to worry about that. Like I have kids and they're young, and like our house is a wreck all the time, and just because that's the nature of our life, like my life stage right now, and so it's okay to have like some dirty dishes. It's not okay to have like every dish covered and stacked up in the sink. You need to get that taken care of. But it's like you don't need to be stressed out that you haven't cleaned up breakfast yet, and it's only 9 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I got a couple things written down here, but what are some other ideas that you think we could do some segments or series on here, just in case someone that does end up listening to this, like the 3 people that will end up listening to this. I've always thought like the fact or fiction stuff would be cool, and like
Mhm.
have a series where we get some stories together, we share them, and then we have people, wondering which ones are true, which ones are false, and we reveal it
Mhm.
at the end and
Yeah.
kind of do that kind of cool thing. What else? What are some ideas that you got, Pat?
Yeah, I think that to expound on one of the things I said before is, to have, I want to have people come on here who have, like you were saying, we want people to come on here who don't have a big outward, they're not seen by the whole world, the AC repairman guy, and hear his story. And at the same time, I'd like to get someone on here who we all think we know their story, and we get to hear some of their real story, who they are and what they've been through, and get to see the real them. I think it wouldn't just serve as entertainment and for the listener, but actually I think it would be like a cool opportunity for those individuals to sit and express themselves in those ways. I think we want to have fun on this show too. I think that sometimes we want to talk about goofy stuff, and sometimes we want to talk about serious stuff, like really serious stuff. And so I'd like to strike a balance between the fun and the light things in life, and talking about whatever our whatever flavor of nicotine we're eating that week. That's what it kind of is. We're kind of eating it, consuming it, and then also get into serious topics, and serious topics that aren't just clickbait because they're going to get people riled up and that's what they want to hear, but just stuff that's real and has real impact for people to engage with too. And so when you come join us for 45 minutes, an hour, whatever, that you get a whole a cornucopia of you get the whole thing. You get the full life. Sometimes I talk about the fullness of life, and that is living a full life. That is eating popcorn and watching Barney with your kid and having fun, all the way over to doing something, making a hard decision in life to move your family to a different state or whatever it is, or having a loved one pass away. That's a full life, and how you walk through that and these things. So we want to I want to pull people through the fullness of what life is, and that's goofy and fun, and it's also just real sometimes. So
yeah, I think another one too we talked about for one of our serious segments was title might change, but I just always thought of it like either the father I had or the father in me, but the idea is that we discuss with different men and women guests we have, and ourselves, what it was like growing up with our fathers or without our fathers, and how that has impacted us and how we want to be fathers.
Yeah.
And I think just, keep it also funny and light. Pat and I have talked about this. I was created in a lab, and I am perfect. And they selected me specifically. My mom flipped through a book, picked me out, and I was delivered by a stork. No, but I was a in vitro baby and didn't have a dad growing up. And Pat here had a really great dad present in growing up. And both of us turned out to be pretty good dudes who, I'll be honest, I wouldn't change it for anything. And I think that dichotomy of how did we both end up where we're at with different fatherhood experiences, and how that's impacted us and what we want to do, what we're passionate about with our kids. And have another guest on who might have had rough dads and how that impacted them, or dads that weren't present, dads that were present but kind of not really, things like that, and kind of really go through all of that and try to really have a vulnerable, honest conversation of, current state of things and the kind of backseat that society has kind of put fathers in. and kind of the effects that's been having on a lot of people. I genuinely believe like we're really just seeing for the first time the whether it's because of social media and how much transparency there seems to be in like being able to communicate and see what is actually going on in people's lives. You can kind of see the impact of really not having a priority on men being good men in the home and filling in that role. And so I think that's something that would be a really cool segment and series to do. I know we already got a couple people who are pretty passionate and excited to kind of come in as guests to talk on that. But that and I know kind of doing like a masculinity series. I know a couple people who are interested in that and coming in and talking about like what is masculinity and what is toxic masculinity and all that, and diving into it. And again, like, not that we're experts or that we have people who are experts on being a man and masculinity, but we certainly got a lot of people who I think have gone through the experiences of the highs and lows of trying to figure it out, and getting some good, genuine topics in here and covering them would be pretty valuable, I know, for us individually, but also hopefully valuable to our listeners to kind of get a little bit of that perspective that maybe they can empathize and relate to. And additionally, I have no idea what it's like to be a woman. What about you, Pat?
Nope.
And I think it'd be cool to have someone in here, like, guests coming in here talking about femininity and what is that?
Things that we just don't know anything about. Like, my wife was talking about one of her friends who was pregnant and hormones and this kind of roller coaster stuff, and she was talking about it forever. And I was just like, I just looked at her. I was like, I've never been hormonal a day in my life. I was like, I don't like either because like, I'm just not in touch with my my inner self, or also just like because I was not created
because you've never been pregnant
in this way. I'm not getting into that right now if we can or can't, but we might get into some of those things too. And I think that with these we want to do some series where we take some time for a couple episodes to dig into a series, and then we'll have some one-offs in there as well. But we want to be consistent. We want to be putting out a consistent content and episodes, shows for people to stay engaged with us.
I think also a fun one, it'd be fun to make sure like we have the proper clarity for those who would partake in it. But I think a write-in and we provide advice segment would be awesome. Like where listeners get a chance to write in with questions they have, or like, hilarious or actually incredibly serious things they're going through, and we make really light of it, and we give awful advice. Maybe it's not awful, but it's probably not the best advice, seeing who we are, right? We're not life counselors, but I think that'd be pretty funny and an interesting segment as well. And on the topic too of trying to just provide valuable content to listeners, I definitely have things in mind pipeline wise for like our special listeners, our listeners who hop on and join in a Patreon, and giving them special content, whether that's the Brews and Review series, or I have an idea of doing some AI work to I don't want to get into too much of it because I don't want to give away the beans, but the idea is that they'd get to be firsthand listeners and get the kind of first experience of things being released that technically, legally we can't sell, but we can make sure that like our listeners who are kind of helping us out on the Patreon, get first access to it. And one of those, I'll give a little taster here. My idea is to use some machine learning to create a AI that pretty much you can feed it any text that vocodes it into the voice of people past, present, current, So like, in my mind, having like and this is an example, I don't know if I do this one specifically, but having like the actors and actresses from the Harry Potter movies actually kind of voicing their lines in the books, and then like giving like releasing it like chapters at a time, right after they're finished, and like come out clear, because I think it'd be pretty cool. And I've kind of talked to some people who were like, oh dude, I would love to listen to Lord of the Rings where, you know, Frodo's dialogue is read by Elijah Wood. Well, we don't have the money for that, nor the rights.
Or like, how do you, this day and age, like now, how do you get Gandalf? He's no longer.
Yeah, but we can use this machine learning algorithm to do it. And I just always thought it'd be really fun to do and try, and definitely be something really, I think, pretty cool to have like that be like a little secret thing that we give out to our listeners of like, hey, you know, working on, you know, the first 10 chapters of Game of Thrones, and we got it working, and it's doing the dialogue and the voices of the characters from the show. And, you know, someone with a really sexy voice like Pat or I is doing the narration that isn't the dialogue, right? So things like that I think would be kind of cool. You know, they're not necessarily the podcast, but they're like little treats that we get to give our listeners.
There'd probably be some pretty good little blooper packages as you work out the kinks of that AI software.
Yeah. So things like that I think would be cool and interesting. I know personally I'm a really big fan of like image generation AI and doing things like that for like listeners. They get to maybe like submit like a prompt or something that we kind of use and generate and give that artwork back to them. Things like along that line that I thought would be pretty fun. But if you end up donating $100 a month, you can literally, you can come do whatever you want. You can be on the podcast.
Yeah, I have a horrible imagination, so
we'll take you shooting.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, you know, there's a we may not be experts, but we have access to some fun things in life.
Yeah, we do cool things.
We do cool fun stuff.
We do a lot of cool fun things. But yeah, I think this is good, man. I think we've kind of covered a lot of bases. We got a lot of stuff here, a lot of things for you to figure out how to edit together. But yeah, I personally think this will be fun. I mean, I was looking forward to it all week, just getting in here and trying it out.
Yeah. This is just a little pilot / rehearsal / brainstorming session to get on the mics and see if we can even conversate for more than 5 minutes and talk about anything that may or may not be interesting to anybody else in the world.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I hate talking to you, but if we're getting paid to do it. Well, yeah, I guess here's the biggest thing is we just got to decide how we sign off.
I know, I've been thinking about it the whole time, and I don't have a good one yet, and I'm trying to not just copy other people.
We need a phrase, right? We need something that we call our podcasters, right? Our listeners. Like, I know Chris D'Elia calls them babies, and Matt and Shane call them dogs. I don't know what we'd call them. Not like we need to figure it out right now. Maybe that's the first thing. You write in and you let us know what you want us to call you.
What do you want us to call you?
It needs to be, not gender specific, right? It needs to be a term that we can refer to both the men and the ladies as. But anyways, I guess we'd just say, let's spitball a couple sign-offs. Like, this is Mick and Pat. Don't get your dick stuck in a blender.
I like it. Oh, I like it. I think that's it.
All right. That's our sign up for this week, everybody. It'll be different next week. Take
reminding care. To 14 and up, parent discretion advised.
Thanks for tuning in. If you love this episode, drop us a review. If you have qualms or comments, leave us a voicemail on our website. While you're there, check out our latest news, merch, and deals from our sponsors. Till next time, Ken.